is coming.
All these voices. All these voices.
They're mine. They're not yours. You had no right to them when you were alive, and you have no right to them when you're dead. That's what it sounded like. Good, you know who I am. And then you know I'm not playing. You're going to let those women go. In Jesus' name, you're going to let those women go.
Is there a demon here watching us right now? I'm just watching this right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good night.
On tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about a case that we are in the process of working now here in Virginia. The case takes place in a town called Winchester, Virginia. It's a site of a lot of battles in the Civil War. And the home where this family resides is actually pretty much right beside Star Fort there. And it's like in the backyard, basically. So you have a lot of history that's wrapped up in this case. You have a lot of paranormal activity that's going on. And this is going to be an episode of Tales as well. I released the first one as just the initial interview. It's an audio interview that we did with the family. And then we did a investigation after that, where we actually got a lot of answers and a lot of really, really good responses on the Phasma box. And we kind of got to the bottom of what was going on there during the actual investigation portion. That is not on the channel yet, but I'll be putting that on the YouTube channel here soon. It's filmed. It just has to be edited and everything. But the initial interview that we're going to be talking about tonight is on the YouTube channel right now. It's youtube.com/James Hershey Jr., shameless plug numero uno. And you can go watch it for yourself, and that way you'll kind of know what we're talking about when we're talking about this tonight. Old boy has seen the initial interview. Old boy has not yet seen the investigation because it's not up on the channel yet. And it's just too big to just send through email or whatever, because we were there for quite a while. So tonight we're going to be talking about the case in general. And it's a very, very interesting case. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one because it's got some cool stuff that you don't see very often in a case. And we have concrete evidence of what we're going to be talking about, at least what I'm going to be talking about tonight, occurring, because I got it on film. And that episode of Tales will be coming out within the next week. All I have to do is just edit it and upload it to the YouTube channel. It's already in the can, as they say. So without further ado, what I want to do is I want to throw over to Old Boy first and get his opinion and his impressions of the initial interview that is on YouTube now and what he thinks of it and any ideas that he may have. And then after he is finished, I'll come back and I will tell you a little bit about the initial interview, and then I will talk about the investigation that we did and the things that happened during that investigation and the things that we learned about the property. And something that you won't get on the Tales from the Abyss episode, you'll also find out what has happened since we finished that investigation. Because the case isn't really closed. We don't really ever have any cases that are closed. We have cases that are resolved, but they always kind of remain open because there's always a possibility of whatever was going on happening again or coming back. Or something else happening. We have a lot of cases where we have to go back over and over and over again because the people are continually opening doors and leaving themselves vulnerable for attachments and bad things happening. The majority of our cases we work here on the East Coast are demonic cases, so there's a lot more repeat visits than there is in a normal investigation. Normally you go on a case, people want to know they got some kind of activity going on in the home. They want to know, is this safe? Are we okay? Is this thing going to hurt us? So you do the investigation, you find out if it's dangerous or not, and you let them know what you found. And then you move on. That's a normal paranormal investigation. Like a case for a family you'd work. What we do is kind of different. Because like I said, we do mostly demonic cases. So when we come into a case, usually, like I would say 85% of the time, there's a family that's being attacked or somebody that's being attacked and they're in danger. And it's gotten to the point to where they're really, really scared and they're freaked out and they need help. And so we come in to do battle and to try to save the family. That's what our normal caseload is. This is one of those ones where there was activity in the home. It's not one of our church cases. This is a case that's a private case that they contacted us about. And they were having activity in the home and they just kind of wanted to know what was going on. And also there was a little bit more than just regular activity in the home, as you'll see when you watch the initial interview video that I put up on YouTube. It is a very interesting case, and I've kind of blabbered on for like 5 minutes now. So I'm going to go ahead and throw over to Old Boy. That way he can give his opinion on the initial interview and any thoughts that he has, because he works cases here in California. So it's always good to get a second and third opinion, you know. But anyway, like I said, we're going to throw over to him and find out what he has to say. And then when he is finished, I will come back and talk more about the case, the investigation, and what happened afterwards. So, Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
So I listened to it. So what I'm going to say is, and I'm going to give you my opinion in a minute on a couple things and a couple issues now, because we're getting into the show. It sounds like they've been having issues at this house, but it sounds like they've been having it before that. So, and the girl's having issues, but because I have ADHD and I've never heard voices and stuff like that. But the problem is she was diagnosed with certain things. So that's a red flag for me that it could have been that. But now she's saying she's not hearing him anymore. She's just seeing him and everybody in the house is seeing it. So them rebuilding the house, remodeling, revetting it, I mean, might be why they're having issues, because they don't want them, whatever's there might not want them to change the house. They like the house how it is. Maybe that's why they're having issues. That was one thing I was thinking about. Because all of a sudden now they're having all these kind of things going on. But now the lady's telling me, I mean, not telling us, telling James that she's been having weird feelings. Maybe this is something in their a generational curse. More like, because it's been going on everywhere, and all these anger and all these issues that her family was having. Her dad and mom fighting all the time, trying to kill each other. You know, mom got into drugs, and all that negativity could have just built over for years, and something could have tagged along too. That's another possibility I was going to talk about, and I'll talk about that in a minute, because that's a very much of a possibility. Because alcohol and drugs can change you, and stuff can linger with that too. We all know that, and can get involved. Things can detach from that. So, I mean, attached from that. And that might be a possibility I was thinking about. But because they're having issues all the time with the girl having issues, the little girl. Now the gentleman it might not like the gentleman. That might be why it's doing stuff to him now. And maybe they're not telling everything that's going on either. I kind of catch that. Maybe they're having their own problems, and that's something you probably don't want to talk about, and I get it. But because of the investigation, it should be talked about, because it could be an issue that's bringing a lot of negativity, and it could be whatever's there causing it. I don't know if it's evil spirit or a shadow person, because they keep saying shadows. And it was saying the little girl a man was telling her to hurt herself. I don't know if it's being an ass, like he was saying, or evil, or something that's just pissed off. That used to do that when they were living, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe it's something that has come over from the generational curse. I don't know. I have a couple things I'm thinking about right now on this investigation after hearing it. The The weird thing is, during the video, I could hear voices and breathing. I don't know if it was James. And I know there's a bunch. See, the problem is there's a bunch of people talking, so I couldn't make it out, but I did hear people breathing. And maybe it was James, but I did hear whispers and talking. It didn't sound like anybody there. That was one thing I picked up in the video. And I hope James can do some research on the video if you're listening to this, bro. When you get to your turn, and maybe after the show, listen to the investigation again. And I kind of heard some things. Maybe I'm just heard it. Maybe there is a bunch of people talking, because there's it sounded like there's 4 or 5 people there. 5 people for sure. I mean, or maybe more, but it could have been just too many people, and I don't know who was talking. But I did hear a lot of breathing. It didn't sound like any of them, or a couple whispers. It didn't sound like them. And again, there was a lot of people there, 5 or 6 more than that. Maybe, I don't even know. I know at least 5 or 4. I know that. No, because there was 3, the little girl, the dad, the stepdad, the mom, and James, and Andy there. So, and I don't know if they had anybody else there. So at least I know there's 5 people. Maybe more. I think the cameraman would have been there, so it might have been 6 or 7. I don't know. Could have been the whole team. I don't know all of it yet, so it was all there. But I did hear stuff like that, and I did pick up on some things in that house. The Civil War thing could be a very much possibility, but I think there's more than just that there. Something that could have died in that house, but because again, they were having issues before in other places and other towns, and you know what she said about her mom and dad. Something else could have been there. Somebody, and the first thing it has to be, this needs to get over. Wicca is, please quit. You have your opinions. That's fine. There again, people could be doing witchcraft. It doesn't matter. They could be on the right or left. There's some people who don't know what they're doing and might be doing something dumb. Or there's somebody who's just messing with witchcraft altogether in the wrong way. And the funny thing is that it seems like, to me, what I was getting from this conversation I was listening to, good work, James and Andy, you did a good job, is that there was still hesitant on some of them. Like, they weren't telling all the whole story. Like, the girl would come out of nowhere. Oh, remember, you're supposed to tell him this and tell him that. It seems like to me, the lady kind of didn't want them knowing everything. Like she was saying, she wanted them there, but didn't. And whatever's with her, and I kind of picking this up, that she has something with her that doesn't want James and them to help. There was still hesitation, if you could hear, and then she didn't want to tell everybody everything. And I'm kind of getting that. I don't know what you guys think. Tell me what you think. I've kind of caught on to that. And she kind of, when she was talking, she kind of admitted that. So my opinion is maybe there's more to what's going on there that's not being said. And I can understand it. It might be personal because, you don't want to get people to get nervous and say something they don't want to talk about. So I don't know what you guys think. I kind of picked that up, guys. I don't know if you guys did, if you're listening to the video. I kind of picked on to the investigation. I kind of picked up that they're not saying everything. Maybe not him, but the girl definitely was saying stuff, and then the mom would kind of talk about it, but didn't want to bring it up. That's kind of what I'm getting. I don't know the whole situation there because I'm in California, but it kind of seems to me there's something there. Don't know what it is. I don't know if it's evil. I don't know if it's good. I don't think it's good. It may not be bad, but because they're fixing the house up, maybe it got mad about that, or maybe something else is coming. All it takes is a lot of negativity and it brings something back. Or maybe it just waited a time. They don't have to do stuff right away. People got to realize they can linger on for years and finally decide to screw with you. Or it could just be something in the house. Could be the Civil War. We don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas there, guys, what I think it could be. But that kind of caught my attention. see, it's hard to, when I'm only listening to stuff, I would have to be there to see their facial expressions, and I could tell when people are lying or when they're telling the truth or when they're not telling everything or they're uneasy. And it seemed to me in her voice that she was very uneasy to talk. I'm talking about the older lady that said she's going to turn 38. It kind of caught on to that a little bit. I don't know about you guys. Like I said, leave your opinions in the comments. Please be nice. Don't say nothing stupid. We'll block you and take you off. Kind of getting that, guys. I kind of have this weird feeling that there's stuff that's going on that they're not saying because they don't want people. I don't think she wants. There's a side of her don't say people. I think there's a side of her doesn't want this thing to leave. And that's something that could be something that James and them might have to deal with. It's pretending right now. It's being very courteous. When she was saying it was messing with her with the doors and stuff like that and things touching him, touching her. And just like Andy said in the video, not just because something scratches you doesn't mean it's evil. It just wants their attention. Something definitely wants their attention. And I don't know why, but it's starting to think maybe because they're re-vetting the house, fixing it up. Maybe it's getting pissed off, or maybe because they can't attack the girl anymore because she's on medicine and stuff, that maybe she's going after the mom now, whatever's there. And it could be a possibility because it sounded like she was hesitant when James and them were asking her things. And I can kind of getting that at the end that she was getting a little angry. Not like I caught on to that, guys. I have that feeling just off of the voice and the vibe I was getting, guys. And that's what I think, James. And that investigation, if you're still going to be doing it, I would really start asking a little bit more questions. Find out what the history is in that house and their past on other things. There's a lot of things she was saying in her past that happened at other houses with her mom and dad. The daughter is very sensitive to what I'm seeing. But when you take medicine for that, it kind of blocks it out. But it's still getting a point across to her. When you're sensitive, they think you're crazy, and you're not. A lot of this might be because of that. All the stuff that she was seeing, that's why they think she needs to be on medicine or ADHD and stuff like that. And it was, that's what science and everybody else thinks, and they'll give you medicine and think it's going to go away. Sometimes it's not always that, guys. I would like to investigate this more. I hope James does more about this issue. I would like to see what goes on it. I don't know everything about it. Like I said, I only know what I've been told, and now the episode they did the other day, the interview, and it's very interesting because that's what I came from it. I think there's a concern there. May not right now, but it could be down the line, and hopefully maybe they can get rid of it. That's just my opinion, because they told me nothing bad happened there and everything, but I don't think that's going to be the last time you guys go. Just have that opinion. That's mine. I hope not. I mean, I would like to get this thing over with right now, and I'm just being honest with you. I'm kind of getting those vibes. And I don't know what your opinion is, what you guys think, but I'm kind of getting that. And I just got off of that vibe of what I'm listening to on the show. I keep saying the show because I'm used to saying interview show. Yeah, I'll say interview show. That's better off. That's what I'm getting. I would have dealt with it in a different way because I'm different than them. I have a different belief system. I hope they can fix this issue, and it probably could. It's not that bad yet, but like I said, there's stuff that you need to start asking more about. And but that's what I'm getting out. I was just getting these vibes over the interview that I was getting. It was just kind of weird. It seemed like she wasn't comfortable talking about everything, and that's what I got. But and the little girl was kind of hesitant too. That's another thing. The gentleman wasn't. He was like this and talking about it. He wasn't too bad. It just seemed like the older lady, the mom, and the daughter were a little bit hesitant in talking, like they're afraid of telling the whole story. I'm kind of getting that, guys. That's just my opinion. I hope we can fix this issue and see what we can do from there, and hopefully they can get better, and it is. So that's all I got to say, James. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Tell us what you think. That's just the vibe I'm getting. I don't know if you agree with that. If you don't, I'm not trying to hurt anybody or say anybody's crazy. I'm just saying the truth. That's just my opinion. It doesn't feel, I don't know, it just feels this, it's what I've got from it. It's kind of a weird feeling I'm getting on that with the mother. The daughter a little bit, but more the mother, that there's more that they're not telling us. Or she's afraid. Maybe something's saying not tell the truth. You never know, guys. So tell me what you guys think. There you go, brother. There's my opinion, brother.
Thank you, brother. So we've heard from old boy now on this case. Let me just say in the beginning of this that this is one of those cases that was really the perfect example of night and day. You know, the initial interview had a feeling about it. It kind of led you to a certain thought process of what's going on in this home. And then the investigation was kind of totally different. The investigation showed us things that we never would have suspected, you know, and it was a really interesting investigation. We found out that there were multiple spirits in the home. We got to speak with them on the Phasma box individually. They were mostly from the Civil War era, which makes sense because, like I said, it was the site of a fort there, and there was a lot of battles fought in the area, and actually a couple of the people died. They had this tree right outside their house. It's like the front porch is here. It's like a long porch, and then the tree sits right in front of the front porch. So it's literally 10 feet from the home. And one of the spirits had a wound from a battle and actually died at the base of that tree. Another one was actually hung from the tree. And we found out from that spirit that tree was called the hanging tree. And they did that quite a bit in that time. They hung people from that tree. So we had several spirits there, and they had all died right in that area. Mostly right at that tree. And we found out from the spirits also that there was something that was malevolent that was attacking this family. It started working on the little girl, and then it moved on to the mother. And according to the spirits, they actually confronted this thing. The Civil War ghosts actually confronted this malevolent entity and chased it off, and have decided that they like this family and they're going to stick around and try to protect them. So whenever this thing tries to come back, they're going to run it off again. Thoughts on that from me? I'm happy that whatever the malevolent entity was that was trying to harm the family, I'm happy that it is no longer there. After we did the investigation, me and Andy went through the home, and we blessed every room. We prayed over every room. And I prayed over and did a blessing on the family themselves individually, each person. We kind of sealed the house off so that it should be keeping almost everything out. So things shouldn't be able to come back in unless they invite them back in, which is, as crazy as it sounds, I know you guys are going to say, well, who the hell would do that? You'd be surprised. A lot of people get comfortable with these things in their life, and especially when you're talking demonic cases. A lot of people will invite the things in, and even after you tell them the things that they're doing that are opening doorways that allow these things into their lives, they will still continue to do those things. And they will continue to open those doorways. And so you end up with the same problem you had before, except for it's worse each time. And it's harder to get rid of each time. So as of right now, the way this case stands is the family is happy. They've got their answers to what was going on. It's a very interesting thing, because there was several red flags in that interview, the initial interview. Things that were concerning to me when I heard them. The first thing was that the little girl had something that was talking to her. Now, this happened a long time ago. It wasn't happening anymore. But the way this thing kind of began for them was this little girl was having a entity that would come up and speak to her and tell her to hurt herself and cut herself and stuff like that. And she would actually cut up her clothes so that she wouldn't cut herself. And her mother would, I believe she said in the initial interview that she asked her, why are you doing that? Why are you cutting up all your clothes? It doesn't make any sense. And the girl said, well, so that I don't do it to myself, because the man wants me to do it to myself. So that was definitely a red flag and definitely concerning, that we had a spirit or an entity of some sort that was telling this little girl to hurt herself. And she ended up going into a mental facility and being checked out by doctors. And surprisingly, she did not have a diagnosis of schizophrenia. That's one thing that I asked during the initial interview, because usually when you have somebody that is hearing voices telling them to do something and they end up in a mental health facility, that's almost always what the diagnosis ends up being, is that they're schizophrenic. Now, whether they're actually schizophrenic or whether they're actually having some sort of activity that's going on, in other words, what they're hearing is real, or whether it's just in their own mind, that's up for debate. And that's really a case-by-case basis. But in this case, there was no diagnosis of schizophrenia, just ADHD and depression, those kind of things. So that's the way it began. Another red flag that happened during the initial interview was, and this was an amazing moment. If you haven't seen the initial interview yet, I'm telling you, after you watch this show, go check it out. It's on the YouTube channel. YouTube.com/James Hershey. Shameless plug. Numero dos. It's an amazing interview. It's a little bit loud because we're not set up to film when we go in to do this. I mean, this is literally, we're working a case. So what you have is just a recorder that's set down on the table, and everybody's kind of talking, and we're working the case. I'm just kind of documenting it. And the majority of cases that we work never get put on YouTube or anywhere else. Because in order for this to happen, one, it has to be an interesting case, something that I think that people would enjoy seeing. Two, it has to be a case that has a lot of evidence, a lot of stuff that I can show. And number three, the people have to be okay with it. And in a lot of cases, especially the demonic cases we work, people don't want their story told because it's embarrassing for them for some reason, Now, I don't think it should be embarrassed. It happens. Believe me, I see this all the time. But some people aren't very comfortable with other people knowing that they got paranormal activity happening in their home or in their family or whatever. So the majority of cases never make it to YouTube. But this was one that did. But that's why you have like a little bit of, like, you can hear the dog running around and stuff like that. But it's very, very interesting. And one thing that there was another red flag and really was a moment in that interview was when the mother was explaining, because I had asked the question, if were you having any feelings that were out of the ordinary, any urges to do anything that you wouldn't ordinarily do, or is anything telling you to hurt anybody or hurt yourself or anything like that? And her answer was shocking, to say the least. It caught me off guard. She was talking about, she wondered sometimes to herself what it would be like to just poison the man that she lived with. Now, I don't know if it's her boyfriend or husband. I don't think they're married. But what it would be like to just poison him, just put something in his food to make him really, really sick. And he was rather shocked by that admission as well, as you can imagine. And he said, well, I hope you don't do it. And she said, oh, no, I won't, because I'm better than that. But I wonder that sometimes. And so that was another big red flag to me, man, because I was like, wait a minute. Here this thing is telling the little girl to hurt herself, to cut herself. And then now you got the mother all of a sudden having these thoughts of poisoning her man, putting something in his food. That's definitely concerning. And where we're at on it right now is I think that whatever the malevolent entity was that was there is the one that was causing this. And I think that it is not there now. Because when we went there, there was no responses to Scripture. We didn't get anything on the Phasma box that made us think that it was still there. Matter of fact, we got the exact opposite. We got the spirits from the Civil Wars, the soldiers, saying that they actually ran the thing off, that there was something here that was evil, that was trying to hurt the family, and that they ran it off, and that they were going to protect the family. Now, you got to watch that sometimes, because when you're talking demons, they'll lie. And they'll make you think one thing when there's actually another. But usually there are things that we can do. And during the interview process, I asked several questions that were designed to determine whether or not we were dealing with something demonic in the home. We do this for a living. So we've got this kind of down pat as far as the questions we ask, the conversations that we have after. And then also when we went through and we blessed the home and prayed over everybody, and I did a personal prayer and blessing over each person. If there was something demonic attached to any of those people, we would have gotten a reaction during that period of time. And there simply wasn't one. So I believe that whatever was there is no longer there for now. That doesn't mean that it won't come back. I mean, never say never. But so far, so good. And in this business, that's kind of the best that you can hope for sometimes. The family was really cool. They were awesome people. I've actually known the guy for a long time. Since I was in high school, I've known him. But I haven't spoken with him for a long time, but I knew him back then. And when they reached out, I was like, yeah, I know that guy, man. Yeah, I'm in, definitely. And so we went and tried to see if we could help him out. And I think that we did good work there. I think that they're going to be okay, because there was nothing that was actively attacking the family at that moment. There was nothing that was lingering around in the home that we could detect. We didn't have any major EMF spikes. We set up cameras in different rooms while we went through and did the blessings, and while we were doing the investigation, we had nothing on the cameras. We didn't really have anything that kind of stood out that made us concerned for their safety. The evidence that we did gather, which I'll be putting up in a video on the YouTube channel for the next episode of Tales, it was cool. I mean, point blank, it was a very, very cool investigation. We got some really awesome responses, and it was interesting, very interesting. But I don't think that there was anything demonic there. I don't even think, honestly, that there was anything demonic in the first place. I think that there might have definitely been a malevolent entity there that was kind of following the family, because there was a history in the family of abuse and of anger issues and violence and all kinds of stuff. And I think that something's been with them for a long, long time. Now, whether it is a generational curse, as Old Boy said, I doubt it. I think it's probably just some spirit, man, that latched on to the family for some reason. I mean, if it is demonic, it's going to be a low-level thing, because if it's something that regular old spirits can just kick out of the place, then it's not anything powerful at all. It's pretty weak. So I'm not very concerned about that still being an issue. I think that whatever it is gone. And I think that as long as the family does what they're supposed to do and doesn't do anything dumb, point blank, then I think it'll stay gone. So by not doing anything dumb, here's what I mean. I talked earlier about opening doorways that could allow demons or negative entities to attach to your life, to come in and really mess your world up. And there's several different things that are really, really common that people do that open up doorways. Okay, and then you have things that are a little less common. I'll start off by talking about the common ones. The most common stuff that we see that is opening up doorways that allow these things in is addiction is a huge one. Whether you're addicted to alcohol or food or sex or drugs or whatever it is, Addiction is definitely one that opens doorways and allows these things in. And everything that goes along with the addiction. So the extra drug use, and even if you don't consider yourself an addict, drug use, alcohol, that kind of stuff will, if you do it to excess, will open doorways. Another thing people do a lot is they will have like seances and use Ouija boards and that kind of stuff. What you're doing in those cases is you are literally opening a doorway that allows things from the spiritual world here. So by opening that doorway and not properly closing it again, you are allowing these things not only to come in, but to hang out and do whatever the hell they want, really, because you got no way to control them. So that's one we see quite a bit as well. Another one is, and oh boy kind of took offense to this, but I'll explain it, is witchcraft. Okay? Now, whenever you're talking witchcraft, demon worship, you're talking Wicca, all that kind of stuff, okay? And I understand each one of those things are separate, different things. I'm just kind of lumping everything together so I can explain it to you. What you're doing is, it's idolatry, okay? You're not worshiping the true God. You are worshiping a false God. So you are opening up doorways. And especially when you're talking witchcraft and demon worship, you're literally asking demons to help you. So, of course, you're opening up doorways there, and you're going to have these things attached to you and ruin your life. I mean, that's just the truth of it. Now, that might be offensive to some people, you know, especially people who consider themselves witches or whatever, but it's the truth of it, man. There's a reason why when you need an exorcism, you call a priest. Because only God can get these things out. Only the power of God. You know, I've worked with a lot of different Wiccans. I've worked with a lot of different pagans. I've worked with a lot of people that aren't Christians. And it always goes the exact same way. Whenever they need to get something out, they call a Christian. They have to get an exorcist to come in there and get rid of the demon. Because you're not going to be able to get rid of it yourself. You know, and that's just the truth. Now, if you have somebody who works cases who is very skilled at what they do, then they can really help a lot of people. You know, I'm not saying that only Christians can help people. But if you're talking about a demon, you know, you're not going to bully a demon out of somebody. You know, you need God to do that. And the only way you're getting God is if you have somebody with faith that can call God down and have him exorcise that demon. Because, see, a lot of people think that exorcists are the ones that kick demons out. But they aren't. It's God that does it. It's what you're doing is you're calling God's presence down into the home. And his power is what makes demons leave. You can command demons out as a Christian, as a true believer, with faith. We have the authority to, in the name of Jesus, to kick those demons out of there. And we do, and I've done it, and I do it all the time. You know, we have the authority to do a lot of different things. See, a lot of Christians nowadays, they don't understand their power. They don't understand what we're actually capable of doing. Because they kind of have this watered down milquetoast version of Christianity that is kind of, oh, you don't want to offend anybody and we got to include everybody. We can't leave anybody out, but that's not the way it is. You know, there's a certain path you got to walk as a Christian. You know, there's only one way to salvation, and that's through Jesus, right? You're not going to do it yourself. You're not going to earn your way to heaven. You're saved by grace. And there are certain things that just are, and there's no way around it. And that's one of those things that if you want to get rid of a demon, you've got to have the power of God. So when you're messing, and this happens a lot with young people. Like when you're a kid, you know, you you get that idea that, ooh, we're going to play with the Ouija board because it's cool, like a teenager or whatever. Or everybody has that phase where they get into Wicca and they get into like witchcraft and they go to down to Books A Million or Walden Books or whatever, and they buy the little witchcraft books, that tell you all about witchcraft. And some of them even have like spell books where you can mix things together and make spells and all this stuff. Everybody goes through that at some point where they either do it or they're fascinated by it. But that opens up doorways, and it leads you down a path where you're going to have a lot of trouble later on in life. And that's just the truth. And that is offensive to some people, but it is the truth. And I always tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. And that's the truth. Now, some people don't believe the way I believe. And you're free to believe anything you want. I'm not telling you you have to believe what I believe. But what I am telling you is I've been working cases. I've been in this field for almost 40 years. I have worked a lot of demonic cases. A lot. Over that time period. I have cast out a lot of demons. I have been to war with these things. Many, many times. I have never, not a single time, have I seen or have I ever even heard of a demon being cast out by a pagan. Doesn't happen. Now, they might do rituals to protect you. They might do things that are supposed to seal the home and all this kind of stuff. But without the power of God, you're not making that demon go anywhere. God is so powerful, I can cast a demon out even if you don't want the demon gone. Now, yes, it can come back if you invite it back in, but that's how powerful God is. Even if the demon wants to stay and you want the demon to stay, God can still cast that demon out. That's power, But I wanted to explain that because old boy kind of gets a chip on his shoulder about these things sometimes. And he gets a little bit upset because he believes differently than I do. But there's a reason why you call an exorcist that is a preacher most times. And there's a reason why Christians can't be possessed. We can get attachments, we can be influenced, but we can't be actually possessed. You can't have a demon dwelling inside you if you're a saved Christian, because you are filled with the Holy Spirit of God. And a demon cannot reside where God resides. Because remember, God is a Trinity: Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. So as a saved Christian, you have the Holy Spirit inside of you. You are sealed until the day of redemption, is what the Bible says, with the Holy Spirit. Now, sealed means it ain't coming out. If you take a jar that's sealed and you turn it upside down and shake it, what happens? Nothing. Because it ain't coming out. It's sealed. You got to break that seal or break that jar to get it out. So it's not going anywhere. You got the Holy Spirit as a saved Christian is inside you. A demon cannot dwell there. But what you also have, if you are a Christian and a man or a woman of faith, and you believe, you have the authority to cast that demon away. You have the authority to do healings. You have the authority to do a lot of different things. One of the things I do when we work cases is I do emotional and spiritual healing, where it's almost like a therapy session. I will go through, and there's a video on the YouTube channel that explains emotional and spiritual healing if you don't know what that is. But I go through and I work a process with the client to where we go through their past traumas and we deal with those traumas and any demons that are attached to the negative emotions that those traumas bring up, I cast out. And then we continue to work through all that stuff. And what that does is it closes all of those doorways that person has opened throughout their life, and that has been open throughout their life through tragedies and bad things that have happened and strong negative emotions. You go through and you close all those doors so that the demon can't come back, right? So as long as the person works the process, they close all the doorways, and then they stay with God and they don't open doorways again, they're going to be okay. But what happens too many times is once you're okay for a little while, a month or two, a lot of people backslide and they go right back to the life they were living before. And they go right back to doing the things that were opening those doorways. And then you have the thing come back. And that's an unfortunate thing, but it does happen quite a bit. But on this case, I don't think we're dealing with anything demonic. At least not that's there now. Now, the negative entity that was there, I have no way to know whether it was demonic or not. There were several questions that I asked during the interview, and by the answers that they gave, I would say that what they were dealing with before it got ran off was not demonic. And the fact that the Civil War spirits were able to chase the thing away tells me also that most likely it's not a demonic entity, because if it was, it would be a lot more powerful than a regular old spirit. I've worked cases before where demons are actually holding spirits hostage and torturing them for fun. So if that tells you anything about the disparity of power between the two, I don't think that a regular old spirit's going to run a demon off. But an older spirit, like a Civil War spirit, could run off a newer spirit, one that was more recently deceased, that doesn't have a whole lot of power yet. That is absolutely possible, and that's probably what we're dealing with. I think the renovations on the home, because they're renovating the home, if you haven't watched the initial interview, I think that definitely has a lot to do with this as well. Things ramp up when you do that. And on top of the fact that they're renovating, they just put fiber optic line in the area. So you've got a lot higher levels of EMF now than you did before, running right through their area. Matter of fact, when we checked the house, the control box was emitting quite a bit of EMF. So that right there is another tell, of kind of ramping up activity. A lot of times after a renovation is finished, within around 6 months to a year, things really calm down and they kind of stop. Will that be the case here? I don't know, but it's possible. Now, what is happening after the investigation? We've been in contact with the family a couple times. They're still doing well. The mother is pretty happy, pretty satisfied with the answers that they got and everything like that. They are seeing more in the home than they did before. Now, that is common. That happens a lot, actually. When we come in and we do an investigation, you're going to have more activity following that. And then when we also did a house blessing and a blessing on the family, that's definitely going to ramp things up as well. So it's not unusual for there to be more activity happening. According to the guy, he's actually seen a full-bodied apparition in the home now, where they had never seen that before. And he said it looked like he was wearing a Civil War uniform. So that fits with what we got on the Phasma box. And that fits with what the spirits themselves told us that they were. And it also makes sense because you're going to have more activity and stronger activity after we leave for about a week. Sometimes 2 weeks, but usually only about a week. Things kind of ramp up because we get these things going, we're talking to them, and they're going to be a little bit more active for about a week. That's normal. We'll see where it goes from here. So far, nobody's being hurt. Nobody's being harmed in any way. Nothing that's happening is dangerous or threatening to the family. So, like I said earlier, so far so good. That's where I'm at with it. I think that we may never have to go back. We'll see. I don't think that what we were dealing with was demonic. I don't think that what we were dealing with is very, very bad at all. So I think that the family's got the answers that they needed. I think that they're safe. Nobody's hurting each other. So unless something really changes with the case, I think that one is going to go into the resolved pile. We'll stay in contact with the family like we always do. We'll check in every once in a while. We'll make sure they're good. And our door is always open for them to contact us if they ever need us. We make that very clear. But I think this one is one of the wins. I think this one is a good one, to where you can kind of take a deep breath and go, whew, awesome. We actually helped somebody and they're going to be okay, And believe it or not, that's for me what it's all about. I get involved in this not to make videos, not to talk about it on the radio, not to do a TV show, any of that. I get into this stuff to help people. Because remember, like I said earlier, the overwhelming majority of cases that I work never make it on the show. They just don't. Either they're not exciting enough, there's not enough evidence, or the people don't want their story told. So getting into this to film it and to make a show out of it, it wouldn't make a lot of sense, because 99.9% of the time I'm not going to be able to film it. So what's the point if that's my motivation? But for me, it's about helping people and helping the family, you know. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again on this show. When this kind of stuff happens to you, you know, when you're dealing with something in the home that's scary, that's paranormal, that's trying to hurt you, who do you call? I mean, you can't call the police, you can't call the fire department, the Marines, the Air Force, nobody like that. They'll laugh at you. And they'll, best case scenario, laugh at you and tell you to go to hell on. Worst case scenario, they'll throw you in a rubber room somewhere, you know, lock you up and say you're crazy. So a lot of people live with this kind of stuff, and they don't ever get help because they're afraid to say anything, because they're afraid somebody's going to laugh at them. So in those cases, we are the people that you call, and we come in there and we take care of it. You know, it's a hard thing, because for every case like this where there's a happy ending, you also have cases where the people don't make it, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. They just don't make it. They keep inviting the thing back. You can't get them to stop. And eventually it all ends the same way when you're dealing with demons. Death. Always. Either you end up dead because you end up sick or in an accident or something like that. You kill yourself, or you end up killing somebody else. And then yourself. That's the way it always goes. That is the end game for these things. They want to destroy you. They want to take your salvation. They want to make sure you burn in hell for all eternity. Then once you've punched your ticket to hell, they want to kill you. And they want you to do as much damage as you can on the way out. So when we're dealing with those cases, like I talked about earlier, where the people continually invite them in over and over and over again, and they keep opening doorways, and we keep working with the people, and we keep trying to get them to stop, and they just keep on going. It's almost like you're dealing with an addict, you know. I don't know if you've ever lived with an addict or had to go through it with somebody who has an addiction to something. But when you're talking an addiction to alcohol or drugs especially, you try and try and try to help those people, and you just can't. You know, until they're ready to get help, until they're ready to make the change for themselves, there's nothing you can do to change them. And that's a hard realization for people. You know, I've lived it myself, going through it with people. I mean, you want to help them. You try like hell to help them. You put yourself through hell. You sometimes ruin your own life trying to help these people. And at the end of the day, they end up in the ground anyway. Because you can't do it for them. They've got to do it for themselves. And in some of these demonic cases we work, that's the same thing that's happening. Is they continue to open those doorways because they think it's cool. You know, nobody wants to be a nerd. Nobody wants to be a square, man. Everybody wants to be cool and edgy and hip. Oh, look at me, I'm awesome, you know. And that's the way a lot of people look at demons, and they look at witchcraft and all those things is, oh, look at me, I'm a horror guy. I'm so goth. I'm so badass. Oh, wow, you know. But it always leads the same place. You know, you're going to end up burning, man. And when you get these things attached to your life, it's bad. It's very, very bad. And even after seeing how bad it is, some people, they just keep going back. There's some kind of draw to it. You know, there's something that continually pulls them in and makes them want to be involved in this kind of stuff over and over and over again. And it's sad as hell. But anyway, I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy and get his shout outs and all that kind of stuff, and we will wrap up. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
I hope you guys enjoyed this show. It was pretty interesting. You guys heard my opinions. What you guys think in the comments, always leave them. Tell us what you think. This one was different because it was an investigation. Like I said, you guys ever need us, write us, email us, send us a message. We will help you if you have problems. We'll try to help you, or we'll find somebody who will. You guys, we love you. It's February now. I hope you guys have all had a good week. Week, whatever's coming up. I hope you guys enjoy it. Misfit Sugar Ladies, Monster Lovers, Demon Hunters, I love you. Blessed be, and have a good night.
Thank you, brother. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you found it interesting and informative. This one was really, really interesting to me because here you had a case where you had many, many spirits in the home. But a lot of people think about ghosts and they think, oh man, they're the bad guys. You know, ghosts are scary and they're dangerous and they're going to hurt you. But here's a case where the spirits that were in the home were actually protecting the family. They ran off the thing that was trying to hurt them, which was pretty cool, man. That was pretty interesting to hear. And they actually like the family and they want to look out for them. And the family's cool with them being around as long as they're not harming anybody or making a nuisance of themselves. I think that might be another reason why they're having the full body apparitions happen now, because they've kind of given the ghost the okay. It's like, hey, you know, you're cool here. We're not going to bother you. And as long as you're not hurting us, then you can stay. You know, so now the ghosts feel more comfortable and they're able to kind of show themselves a little bit more, you know. Energy never dies. It just changes form. Remember that. That's what physics says. So you're still there. It's still your personality, your mind, your consciousness is still around. So the only thing missing is your body. You know, your body is just a meat suit, man. You're what is still there. So you're going to be still you. And if you're a mean person that likes to cause trouble and hurt people, you're going to be a mean ghost that likes to cause trouble and hurt people. And I think that's what we were dealing with on this case, was somebody who just enjoyed pissing people off and hurting people. You know, like I said in the interview, there are people that just like to watch the world burn, and that's the truth. You know, and when you get those kind of people, when they die, they're the same as they were when they were alive. The only difference is there's less consequences when you're dead. You don't have to worry about somebody killing you. You know, yeah, I might be able to come in here and make you leave and leave that family alone. But you're still going to exist. You're just going to go somewhere else and do it to somebody else, you know? And so, if anything, once somebody dies, it kind of frees them up even more to do those kind of things that we would rather they didn't do. But anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a fun one. The investigation was nice. I enjoyed doing it. The people were wonderful. You know, and a lot of times that's what you're dealing with when you're going these cases, is a really nice family, you know, and your heart goes out to them. And you want to help them. And I'm really glad that we were able to get some answers for the people. And I'm really glad that everybody's safe and doing well. At the end of the day, like I said earlier, man, that's a win. You know, it don't get much better than that. It gets a hell of a lot worse. We talked about, we lost a guy not too long ago. A case that we had worked several times, and he had a demon attached to him, and he refused to quit drinking. He refused to quit opening doorways and doing the things that were causing these things to attach to him. And he ended up dying. He ended up with disease and he died. And that is because we couldn't help him. We tried, man. We tried like hell. We did everything we could, you know. But at the end of the day, if an old boy has said this a lot of times, and he's absolutely right, if you want the demon there, it's going to be there, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. I can go in there and cast it out. I can make it leave, but it'll come back. And if you're opening that doorway and you want it there, I can't stop it from coming back over and over and over again. Now, I can keep going back and kicking it back out over and over and over again, but eventually it's going to win because you want it there, and that's what happened in that case, and it really sucked, you know. And there's a lot of times when that happens, working these kind of cases. Every once in a while, you get cases where it's a win. And I say, and here's a little advice from me to you. If you're somebody who works residential cases, cherish the wins. Take them, man. Take them. No matter how small, take them. And hold them close, hold them tight, and just cherish them and be happy. Because that's one funeral that you didn't have to go to. That's one child that's not going to grow up without their mother or their father. Take that win, man. Especially if you're doing God's work. Take the win. Love you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out. Till we speak to you again. Love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.